702.
The Big Interview
With Bongani Bingwa.
19 after 7. I said earlier, as a sample of one resident in Johannesburg, in my area, we have been hit by constant blackouts and they last for hours at a time. It's all around people who are ripping copper cables from infrastructure, but also the issue of Zama Zamas. City Power say they are under siege. Armed Zama Zamas are ripping these cables out of tunnels like it's gold, leaving Joburg in the dark quite literally at times. There have been fires under the M1, blackouts in Bromfontein, Parktown, Newtown, streets completely shut down. Lives, of course, get disrupted, but the damage in millions is often not repaired. Officials are calling it a sabotage crisis. Over 170 arrests have been made this year alone, but the looting hasn't stopped. And City Power says they're being outgunned, outmanned. And so you got to ask the question, who's really in control of Joburg's power grid? Charles Tlouane is Chief Operations Officer at City Power and joins us now. A very good morning to you and welcome to 702 Breakfast.
Very good morning, Bongani, and to the listeners across the country. And thanks for having us indeed.
All right, let's get straight to it. Firstly, give me a sense of how bad the damage has been, how bad the damage is that's been caused by cable theft and these underground syndicates.
Bongani, I will say we are dealing with a situation, a phenomenon that is very well known, and I think it's about the issue of ferrous and non-ferrous metals such as aluminium, copper, and currently as things stand, our underground cables that will even include in the tunnels, they are mainly copper. And then we are dealing with a situation where on day-to-day basis across where City Power operates, we find ourselves having to deal with the issues of vandalism of these cables, from in the tunnels and even also on the ground, above ground soil. So that's what is happening currently, even on the overhead lines. That's what we are dealing with on day-to-day basis.
Charles, I know you don't deal with roads, but let me give you an example that was reported in The Citizen just last week when they were saying that some of the bridges in Johannesburg face the threat of collapse because of these, illegal mining operations, because even the rock under which they're built is, not safe from Zama Zamas. But one of the things they also pointed to was where the tunnels begin, there are often informal settlements that mushroom, and one was so brazen as to even have a creche around it. In other words, the people doing this see themselves as almost permanent settlers in the areas in which they work. Nobody's disturbing them. Nobody's looking to stop them.
Yeah, I think it is quite a serious concern, and we should also, appreciate the fact that as entity, we are also not immune from this kind of situation. And we find ourselves in that kind of circumstances where we notice that it's a well-coordinated kind of a syndicate and approach that is being used to deal with this kind of things. And sometimes we fall victim of the success of the police when they took out Zama Zamas from the tunnels. And then they find themselves in our tunnels. It's not only our infrastructure underground that is there within the tunnels, but many entities' infrastructure is affected. That will include Transnet, Telkom, and many others, Joburg Water, even the fiber companies. They are not left out in this kind of incident. So, Johannesburg infrastructure in its own entirety, if I were to speak on the infrastructure of the electricity network, is indeed under siege and we are under attack.
And because you say these are, to paint a clear picture here, this isn't just a couple of guys, 4 or 5, with little rudimentary tools trying to dig underground. You're saying these are armed gangs and they're often able to outgun the authorities that are meant to make sure they're not even there.
That's absolutely, that is the truth, Bongani. Our teams, when they have to go in and do the work of inspections and check the conditions of our cables or infrastructure in totality. They don't just go in. We get the heavy armed security that we have to sweep in first. And at times, even the lighting is not good because they damage the lighting. It's dark in there, so when you go in, you just use your own torch to look around to see what's happening. And it's about kilometers and kilometers of cable of cables and of the distance of the tunnels. And it's not like it's a one straight tunnel. It goes in a zigzag type of approach. At times, it's very difficult to see what's at the corner, what's coming. And when you walk in there, there's also water that is underground, and there's also sewer things that are leaking there. So pipes that are leaking there. So it's just that kind of a situation that when we have to get in, we have to arm ourselves heavily so to protect the infrastructure and firstly our people.
Yeah.
That's
so
how I'll put it.
So Charles, what's the game plan here? I mean, quite clearly, you've painted a picture of being completely overwhelmed. Your core function isn't, of course, to go in with armed guards to root criminals out. So what's your plan?
So our plan is on multifaceted approach. Firstly, we deal with how do we recover our infrastructure. And I think one of our long-term approach, for the short-term one, let me start with the short-term one. The short-term one will be to get in physical security, to try and guard, and then we use somehow different technologies to assist us in curbing this phenomenon. And then the medium term will be to try to create some kind of alternative kind of supply to the substations that houses these cables and distribute power to the residents of the city of Johannesburg.
So if I may come in there, you're going to now provide security. Does that suggest then that it hasn't been there all along?
No, we are having the security, the physical security. We are deploying physical security. We are deploying the technology. What I'm trying to say is that even if though you deploy the physical security, due to kilometers and kilometers of these tunnels, it's not at all point in time where you can deploy 100 security personnel in to cover the entire network underground. So you deploy them, and they go in intervals to come and check and see what's happening before our people can come in. So that's what we are doing to make sure that we protect it.
Yeah.
But also, yes.
It feels to me like you're doing this on your own. And as I said earlier, it's not your core function. I mean, is the city doing its part? Are SAPs doing their part? I would imagine crime intelligence, that kind of agency or aspect of law enforcement needs to also be a part of the solution.
So what is happening is that we do have a forum with our sister companies where we engage and we sit down, such as Joburg Water, and we talk about these issues. How do we collectively join efforts to try to deter this kind of acts? And we also, have increased intelligence and led operations with the SAPS, the JMPD, and the private security partners to monitor the hotspot. And we are seeing some kind of result in terms of the prosecutions that are yielding results against these cable thieves who have recently been sentenced to up to 10 years imprisonment. We are investing in a tamper-proof infrastructure, smart grid technology as well. And we also do a customer engagement programs where we ask our communities to be our ears and eyes on the ground. Yeah. Our technicians, our planners, they're also in security. They're also in trying to do everything possible to stabilize the pressure that is being faced by the grid.
All right, Charles, keep us updated in terms of your efforts and whether you succeed or not. Charles Tlouane there, the Chief Operations Officer at City Power. But it just sounds to me like they're completely on their own. They're having to scramble. They're having to talk to Joburg Water. Guys, what are we going to do? Let's get private security. It sounds like they're completely on their own. Where is the leadership of this city? I mean, we've seen a revolving door of mayors, so perhaps no one has settled down long enough to think about what to do. And one of these days, the world-class African city, the lights are going to go off. And we're going to be so surprised. The president will be shocked. No doubt he will be shocked.
Current events, developing stories,
Tough questions.
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.